And in the upper right, in the red, he's playing for Berlin International Gaming, and he's in the blue, not the red. It's ShoWTimE. And of course, in the bottom left here in the red, odds-on best player in the world, it's Serral. Although in fairness to all of that, Serral, you know, didn't look as strong in Gamers 8 as other players did. He didn't win Gamers 8. That much is certainly true. That was Rainer, and he got knocked out in the round of 8 to another Korean Zerg. Go figure. But he did win Yanchiping, and he did look very good at Home Story Cup. So there is that. But does that make it 2 tournaments in a row now for Rainer? Was there an intermediate one I missed? Or I think Rainer is at 2 tournaments in a row right now. He won Home Story Cup, then he won Gamers 8, and obviously, you know, Gamers 8 is on a very different level. But point being, Serral is looking very strong at the moment. Curious to see where ShoWTimE goes, because ShoWTimE, though, is one of these players that seems somewhat willing to stay on ground toss for a while, and we talked about this a decent amount in Real Talk Strategy earlier today. If you are watching this live, if you are watching this on YouTube, that would have been on Wednesday the 23rd. Check out youtube.com/zombiegrub, because that's what the VOD is. We talked about this a little bit, about how no one likes Sky Toss. Like, Sky Toss as an eventual transition is boring, it is dull, it is just not fun, it is anti-fun. And that's one of the issues that we're a little bit worried about with all these balance changes, is it feels like it's encouraging Sky Toss a little bit too much. That being said, ShoWTimE is one of these players that has been experimenting with ground toss for a lot longer into games. That's how he almost beat Rainer at Katowice. That's how he's played some awesome games versus Serral earlier on into this earlier in this year. So I don't know if that's what we're gonna see, but I would love to see him, you know, play Blinkstalker Colossus or Charcelot Mortal Archon and like actually kind of commit to that. Now, of course, lurkers are a problem for that one. Broodlords are a problem for that, because, well, they just kind of hard counter robo units, and Vipers as well. But if you can make the game tradey enough and aggressive enough, you can still make it work. But for now, it's going to be a Stargate opener, and just to be clear, a Stargate opener doesn't mean you're not playing ground toss. Like, that is very important to point out here. Stargate openers are just by far the most stable opener that a Protoss can go for. You get the oracles, it means you can get your third base, it means you can get full vision on the map, and soon even more vision with stasis traps having 7 vision range instead of 4. Theoretically, that's a change that's being proposed. You have map vision, you have map control, you have potential damage on the map, you have an ability to take your third base. Generally, this still means you go into ground toss in the mid game. It still means you're going to go into Blinkstalker, something, probably. What variant it is, we're going to stay tuned for now. Meanwhile, Serral, you know, just doing Serral things. We're not going to really see deviations in his build for... I mean, we're starting to hit the point, right? 340 Roach Warren against some builds is what you would want to drop it at. But again, those builds are kind of far out of the meta right now. We don't see nearly as many Adept Glaives plays, unless it's like max packs. So the 340 Roach Warren's not super necessary. You know, we're not really at the point where that Serral needs to drop any sort of structure other than a drone. And a drone's not really a structure, so that's fine. So right now, drone, right, is the name of the game for Serral, as ShoWTimE puts himself up onto 3 oracles. Curious to see if he gets a 4th. But for now, Oracle dives in, and I kind of like what ShoWTimE's doing here. He's got an Oracle on the right side, and he's got an Oracle on the left side as well, and he's trying to just catch Serral out of position, but this is Serral, man. This is not your run-of-the-day Protoss Zerg. He's not catching him off guard, even with 1 Oracle on either side. Like, the map control that ShoWTimE is exerting right now is extreme. He's got units everywhere. But Serral's not fooled by this. Serral is not falling victim to this. So he's getting creep removed, and I do like that. The Adepts, they shade backwards just a little bit behind this. Here's where things start to vary, by the way. So we don't have a Twilight. We have a Forge. Oh, this is actually very interesting. We have a Forge and a Robo, but no Twilight at all. Normally you would get Twilight for, you want it for Charge, you want it for Glaives, you want it for Blink. But skipping Twilight in its entirety, relying on the power of the Oracles to give all of your mobility. And by the way, this is 4 Oracles. You don't see it all that often, but I don't know, something felt like this was a 4 Oracle game for ShoWTimE. This means he has 2 hit squads. He has 2 Oracles on the left. He's 2 Oracles on the right. Both of them one-shot drones. And that gives a lot of harassment potential that really hasn't been leveraged just yet, but it is powerful. Are we gonna go for like a +1 Colossus timing? Is that what this is? But there's no Robo Bay. And now the Twilight's going down, but this is so slow compared to the Forge and the Robo. I truly don't know what ShoWTimE is going for, but I guess this is just next level greed if you think about it. He has the depths on the map. He's got the Oracles on either side. He can just play in the middle. He doesn't need Twilight as much. He can kind of turtle up a little bit, keep Serral back, and then delay the Twilight a little bit. Play a little greedier, get more probes, get up to 71 probes super quickly, and then by the time you're ready to do something, then you can get Charge, because Charge is a quick upgrade to get, and you get your Immortals and everything else, and just kind of rely on Adepts and Adepts and Oracles in the mid game. I guess that's fair. But I'm kind of worried about this because generally Charge-led Archon timings are pretty solid against Swarmhost play. They run across the map. The Swarmhosts have to play defensively. You back up, you swarm in, and it's fantastic. I think this might be a little too late for that. Swarmhosts are just about done. ShoWTimE is not going to get across the map in time here, and equally as important, despite having 4 Oracles. Okay, I guess he's going to see it right now. But the first time he sees the even prospect of any sort of Swarmhost play is as they pop. So now ShoWTimE is in a rough spot. He didn't know this was coming. He didn't have an idea. The Queens are starting to run forward. We're going to see Overlords move forward just to poop more creep. And this pressure coming out of Serral right now is a problem. This is going to be... ShoWTimE, if he wins this game, he's going to be against the ropes for a long time. He's severely lacking in Splash. He's got 1 Archon. Well, it's not even done yet. He will have 1 Archon. He's going to get a second one here. But Serral's going to drop the Plague. The Locusts are already going down, and he doesn't even bother with the heavily fortified third. He's going to get on top of the natural. They're going to go over everything. And yeah, Oracles do bonus damage to light, but this is a dead Robo. And I think this is a dead Nexus here as well. It's not actually controlled properly. So instead, it's going to be a dead cannon. It's going to be some dead probes. 12 probes go down. It's a dead Robo as well. And that is the first salvo. But of course, Serral has to be careful. He's a little bit supply blocked here. So he's not maxed out. He could be maxed out right now. And that is something. But the first salvo, maybe not quite as bad. Not quite as painful as it could have been for ShoWTimE. I mean, I think if Serral controlled that a little bit better, I think he could have lost the Nexus. But even as it stands, he got a lot. And now here come the Locusts onto the third base. And that's a great stasis. So second salvo, not finding a lot. In fact, a lot of these roaches very low. The Queens are off creep, so they're going to fall down. And they're so important into this push because that means the Oracles can't fight. So now it's only 3 Queens instead of the 4 or 5 that were there previously. That makes it a little harder to just kind of sit here and run forward and take the fight. And ShoWTimE is rapidly approaching the supply counts where he can start to really fight effectively. We talk about 150, 160 supply as those force fields are fantastic. So many roaches go down. And I love what ShoWTimE's doing here. In fact, he's going to find the Swarmhost, but there's not enough energy on the Oracles. Unfortunate there. That felt like this was going to be a coup, but it's not. So now the Locusts are going to find their way to the right side. The Roach is coming in from the left. And again, it's another test. The Archons cannot fight this one. So it's going to be a lot of dead economy here. Zealous warped in to die. And the Roaches on the left side are doing a great job too because ShoWTimE doesn't really want to commit. So SimCity working really hard against Serral in this setup, or ShoWTimE in this setup right now. I mean, that's a great force field. And I'm sorry, why are we relying on the WTL observer? It's not working. It's not working. They keep trying to show us the wrong stuff. Biles lands, ShoWTimE doesn't dodge them. And now, again, at the front here, so Serral maintains his bulkhead. And we got the Locusts ready to swarm on the left side. ShoWTimE, again, I gotta give ShoWTimE credit here. His worker count, he's at 76. His economy, despite the damage he's taken, is in a pretty solid spot. His supply continues to increase. He continues to get a little bit better. The roaches are not finding all that much. He's got Immortals up the wazoo. He's got Archons up the wazoo. This is starting to look like a game that he can stabilize if he doesn't eat massive biles like he does right there. But he's gonna move forward on a creep. At least seems like he wants to do so. I think the one thing he's lacking is charge. I think well, I know he has charge. He just doesn't have a lot of zealots. Having some ability to chase this army down really does seem like it would be the useful thing. There's a stasis trap just triggered. I'm not sure where that was. But now, Serral, he's not really going for the full frontal attack anymore. This time, the last couple salvos have been dual pronged. So, Locust into the third. Army into the spot between the main and the natural. But at this point, ShoWTimE, I mean, he's prepared. He's going to lose he's going to lose an Archon. That's expensive, and it seems like we don't have overcharge. It's just not ready just yet until right now if he wants that. But, well, instead, he's going to be, 14 probes is painful. 14 probes hurts. And now the roaches get on top. That's going to be another dead Archon. Immortals fall here as well. I've been praising ShoWTimE. And the supply is actually telling a pretty solid story, but those, we're starting to get to some level of expensive trades. Losing Archons, losing Immortals is not great. And Serral, are you trying to pull a deer here? You're trying to burrow up under the, I think it was just to heal it, I think. Meanwhile, big Zealot run by on the bottom side, but not going to find out that much. Serral is going to be rebuffed, or is going to rebuff ShoWTimE. Now the Locust, they're going to try to get on top of the fourth. With the shield battery overcharged and the Zealots in the art, yeah, they're not finding all that much. And it does feel like as ShoWTimE here is economy, again, it's still fine. It's not incredible, but it's fine. As he continues to increase his upgrades and increase his supply a little bit, it feels like we're starting to get to the point where the swarm hosts are not nearly as useful as they once were. So that's a bit of a problem. But now another Archon will fall. And the Banelings on the right side, they don't have +2, it's only +1. And there's actually no way for them to get in. So Archons will deal with this thing for the most part. On the left side, though, Serral now wants to run it. It's going to be another dead Archon. Yeah, it's going to be another dead Archon. And the swarm hosts on the north side. This is, again, where it starts to get a little bit scary because it feels like the army of ShoWTimE, as powerful as it is, it's just not in the right spot. So Locusts are going to go down. They're going to kill a lot of Zealots at the front. Seems like ShoWTimE took a decent fight, actually. And the Locusts, shield battery overcharge. It's a powerful thing. Keeps things alive. So ShoWTimE is just about maxed out now. And Serral needs to trade his supply out. We're at the point where ShoWTimE, if he runs across the map, if he can find time in a way to run across the map, his army is just better. In a straight up fight, his army is more expensive. His army is more powerful. It will win the fight. But Serral, he's buying time for Broodlords. And that is such a solid decision into this army. This army is incredible into the mid-game Zerg army, but not into the late game, not into these Broodlords. So ShoWTimE, he's on a bit of a timer right now. He's got to find the value. And that's a great start. He put the Banelings into a funnel. He killed them all off. But now the Locusts going to try to get on top. Once again, Zealots and Oracles are there to defend. But ShoWTimE, once you deal with this, you got to go. We have the Greater Spire. It's halfway done. No Corruptors just yet because Serral is maxed out. But Broodlords in this game are going to be a terrifying force that really are going to be hard for ShoWTimE to deal with. So he's got to go right now. And the Banelings, 20 of them getting ready to really run pell-mell into this army. But those are great force fields to start. A bunch of roaches go down, but the burrow keeps them safe. And it's all about buying time again here for Serral. I'm a little bit surprised to see him remaxing on roaches. I think that's the important thing to point out right now. He is remaxing on roaches just a little bit. He's not buying Corruptors. He's not getting ready for that transition just yet. But he has the opportunity whenever he would like. And now ShoWTimE needs the 5th. We're starting to get 15 minutes in. He needs the 5th. So big army from Serral on the right side. Locusts on the left. Again, they're going to get dealt with, but it's forced the entire army out of position. And this is a hard angle for ShoWTimE to fight into like this. It's not a good concave. Oracles are going to sit on top, but they don't have the energy. They've spent so much of their time killing Locusts. And they're good at that, right? Locusts are light units. So Oracles do bonus damage to light, but even still, that's a hard fight to take. And now Serral, do you commit here? I don't know. So actually the Zealot run by on the left side, that's gonna get a base. And in the middle of the map here, this seems valid. This seems possible. The Banelings, they crash into Archons. Not the best trades here whatsoever. Immortals firing here as well. ShoWTimE, he needs to do something with this. We need to see more Warpins. We need a Warp Prism, which I don't think he has. Yeah, there's a Warp Prism. No, actually, there's a Warp Prism, but it's not. There it is with the army. ShoWTimE is really starting to make me believe that this is possible, that he has bent and withstood long enough, but now it's the time to flex. He doesn't have a lot of Archons, though, and the next round of Banelings may end up being a problem with the Locust here as well. Serral on the counterpunch. The Archon has to get saved. Serral moves forward right now, and immediately the force fields, they're going to get targeted down. They will fall. The Immortals are going to get saved. Here come the Locusts from behind. ShoWTimE has to run, but Serral on the chase says, no, not possible. Not here, not now. The Immortals are doing what they can, but it's not enough, and ShoWTimE, he missed his timing. I think Serral built too much of an economy behind this. He just had too much of a bank, too much larva. We talked about the Swarm Host. We talked about the Broodlords. They're not even going to be the key thing. It's just the Archons slowly falling and ShoWTimE not having the money to replace them. And now, Serral maxed out. ShoWTimE again struggling to get over 160 supply. He's got his 5th base, but his 4th base his 3rd base is soon to be tapped out. 4th base, not all that great. And now the Locusts on the left side going to get damaged. Finally, is on the right side. The Roaches, they're going to be forced back. To be fair, it's a good concave, even with this +3 that the Roaches have. But finally, the Locusts, they get 10 more probes. The economy of ShoWTimE continues to hurt. And Serral did lose the base on the left side. That's important to note. But he's got the base on the right. He's still on 5 bases here. And we look at resources lost. He's lost 4,000 less resources. He has traded so much more effectively over the course of this game that it is, even with his economy hurting theoretically just a little bit, he's fine with that. And now again, I think this might be the wave that kills the Nexus. If ShoWTimE, or if Serral commits to it, yeah, he's going to. So now the 4th base is dead. Now ShoWTimE is effectively he's a 4 base Protoss technically, but a lot of those bases are starting to mine out. So finally, this base will fall, and finally, Serral is finding the economic advantage that he's looking for. Let's see if he can do it. Let's see at this point if this is enough to close it out, whether ShoWTimE can fight us through. Remember, we never had Storm. ShoWTimE never had the money or the time to get Storm. And that means this Baneling on the ground composition is just, it's so hard to deal with, even with the Immortals and even with the Archons. There's just too much beef. So now the Biles land on everything. Massive, and I mean massive shots there. So now the Banelings, they're going to kill the static defense. They're going to kill everything else. And Serral in 18 minutes is finally going to crack this defensive Protoss that has withstood pressure for so long, but he's going to do it. And Serral takes a 1-0 lead. ShoWTimE played so well, but Serral just played a little bit better. He's in the upper left here in the blue. Down a game. He held on for so long. Didn't quite make it. It's ShoWTimE. And on the bottom right in the red, up 1 game, playing game 1 quite flawlessly. Just perfect gameplay. It's Serral. So game 1, we saw Serral. He went for Swarm Host Roach. He put a lot of pressure on, and quite frankly, ShoWTimE handled it very well. He handled it superbly well. He withstood the pressure. He didn't take too much damage. He reprobed up when he could. He got himself into a solid composition. He didn't lose a Nexus until the very end. Like, in general, it was a really solid showing from ShoWTimE. The one thing he missed, he didn't get Storm. And that meant that when Serral transitioned out of the Swarm Host play into Lingbane, Roach Ravager, whatever it was, he didn't have Storm to deal with the Banes, and he tried to rely on Archons, and the economic advantage that Serral built from owning the map so hard meant that it wasn't enough. And then the Banelings eventually, the army, multiple waves of Zerg eventually got all the Archons, and ShoWTimE was too broke to rebuild another wave, and that was how he died. Very close. Very, very close to being a ShoWTimE win, but just Serral is too good is the thing. When you play it perfectly, it's really hard to lose. And that's not a statement on Zerg by the way, or a balance completely. That's just saying, like, if you play perfectly, your opponent has to play perfectly to beat you. So I don't think we're gonna see Serral do this again. I really don't. It is that is a build that you throw out on Neo Humanity because you have the rich gas and you have just the incredible architecture for it, and really nowhere else. So it was interesting to see Serral throw this one out on Royal Blood as well, or is it Royal Blood? Yeah, on Royal Blood as well. Because again, that's not a map I think about it as much, but you do have the rocks outside of the third that make that build actually really powerful. So I retract my statement. You can do it on Royal Blood as well. That's fine. But I think we're going to see something a little bit more standard out of Serral in this game number 2. That's ability to pull out once a series maybe. But in fairness, ShoWTimE also played a little weird. He delayed his Twilight for quite a while. He got four oracles instead of 3. He went into robo play. Like, this was a very in fairness, I don't cast a lot of the European players just because of time zones and the events that I can cast. But I mean, I could cast it from replay, but there's enough live stuff going on that I tend to cast that instead. That I don't know. I don't get to see a lot of ShoWTimE. But I will say that based on North American and Korean Protoss players, that's very weird. Getting that 4th Oracle, delaying your Twilight for so long and getting Robo and Forge instead, and then going for that type of opening. This might be something that ShoWTimE does all the time, and I'm just not aware of it. But in the context of the Protoss meta zeitgeist, it is a little weird. So for now, first Oracle is out, second one's on the way, and I'm just kind of waiting with bated breath to see how ShoWTimE decides to open. Like, does he do that again? Because I mean, I can see some power to it, right? You get 4 oracles, that gives you 2 units, that two positions that you can kill probes in or kill drones in very quickly. You can defend your third base pretty well against most things between the adepts and the oracles, and then you get a quicker +1. You get a quicker robo, so immortals and warp prisms, and then because charge is such a fast upgrade, you're kind of fine. Like, I can understand the logic behind it, and there we go. That's the 4. Okay, so ShoWTimE's doing it again. Well, as I say that, Oracle, we had a 4th Oracle on the way. It has been canceled. We're gonna have to see whether he decides to do it again. I don't know whether he decides to go back for it. But for now, Twilight Robo on the way. So it seems like we are gonna see that, or not Twilight Robo, excuse me, Robo Forge on the way for ShoWTimE here. So it seems like he's got the same idea again. And let's see how well this works in a more normal game, I think, because we're not seeing Serral go for a... Oh, I love this. Oh, cheeky bugger. ShoWTimE is going to drop a stasis trap on the 4th base. Now, he doesn't do it quite perfectly. Serral catches it in time. Because the ideal here, the big value out of this, is if you have the stasis trap down and then the drone gets stasis trapped in such a position that you actually just can't take a base for the entirety of the stasis. But because Serral caught it as the stasis trap was going down, he was able to run away and still get triggered, and it actually ended up being a lot better. It had really ended up not having that much of an impact. But for now, 3 oracles, not 4. ShoWTimE canceled that one. He never remade it. Immortals getting added in, +1 halfway done. Now we see the Twilight going down. We should see charge after that. And Serral's doing the same build once again. Babylon does have those rocks outside of the 3rd. So as I think about this more and remember maps a little bit better, I guess. Yeah, you know what? The Swarm Host play is valid on this map because of the rocks outside of the 3rd. Makes sense. Okay. I'm just surprised to see it 2 games in a row as... Oh, no. Against Swarm Host play, oracles are so important. Because what they mean is that you're able to go and it's bonus damage versus light. You can stasis up like the first set of locusts or two. You can clear through them fairly quickly. It allows you to jump on top of, you know, like it allows you to jump on top of swarm hosts a little bit. It's just a really powerful idea. So losing one of them into this, I don't know that we should call it an all-in by the Zerg, because again, he is on 4 bases, he is on 66 workers, but this committed pressure that Serral is going to be going for, that's a bit of a problem. Now, knocking this creep down early is pretty nice. Those force fields do a pretty solid thing to start, but you got to be very careful here, ShoWTimE. He's going to try to meet this in the middle of the map, bait out the locust as well as he can, and look at what Serral does. He sends 6 locusts out. He triggers 3 of the swarmos. The rest of them are just going to sit there. The rest of them are going to drop their payloads onto the actual base, onto the base of ShoWTimE right now. Meanwhile, the locusts from earlier are zoning out. This is a great move from Serral right now, and we don't have any splash damage. There are no Archon. There's a Dark Shrine. I think that just finished. Maybe he canceled it. Yeah, there's a Dark Shrine that's done. But this is already getting, I think, a lot more than the previous one did, because it forced ShoWTimE more out of position. This 4th base is under a lot more threat than it was previously. We're seeing static defense fall down. We're seeing stalkers fall down. There is no blink. So Serral feels in a much better position in this game number 2 than he did in the first one. And on top of that, oracles are less scary. Yeah, they have a lot of energy. That's fine. The queens are there. And more importantly, there are only 2 oracles. There aren't 4. You don't have that nearly as much power. So now we're going to see the locust go in once again. I love this stasis, by the way, because ShoWTimE figures that Serral wants to dive on top, but he doesn't. He wants to dive on top of the 4th base. His locusts are enough to deal with things in the 3rd. He's going to kill off static defense, pylons, whatever. Serral thinks about diving into the 3rd base, gets a little bit, backs up before the army can rotate over. And it feels like we're just going to be able to see the same thing over and over again. And now that we have the stasis on the left side, well, Serral's going to run up through the middle. That one stasis trap gets 2 lings. Second one's a little... Actually, this is a horrible stasis trap for ShoWTimE. It zones the entire army out. It's actually... Normally, stasis traps are pretty solid. This is so bad for ShoWTimE right now. He just can't take the fight. He's going to drop force fields and do what he can, but it's feeling rough. And now we're going to see Locust go into the main base here. ShoWTimE struggling to take fights everywhere. Into the 3rd. He really is struggling with that, even with the stasis doing a good job of kind of dealing with the army. And now the main base. The Nexus will fall here. There's no saving it. It's dead. ShoWTimE, that's oh man, that stasis trap, it did so much for Serral. It did so much bad for ShoWTimE. And now, yeah, you know, ShoWTimE briefly got himself above 150 supply. No longer. And Serral he's content with the damage at this point. We're starting to see him transition. Baneling Nest going down, more lings on the way. ShoWTimE held on very well, and quite honestly, if it's not Serral playing that game, I think ShoWTimE wins game number 1. Game 2, ShoWTimE is dead. In fact, he taps out right now, so ShoWTimE follows Serral, gets the 2-0. Really impressive play. And of course, if you like this and you want more high-tier gameplay of Serral and Maru and MaxPax and everyone else, make sure, of course, to like this video. Tell me what ShoWTimE could have done better, and more importantly, subscribe to the channel, because then you'll know what's happening. You'll get a video just about every day. And of course, check out my Twitch as well when I'm live, twitch.tv/BeoMulf, and I'll see you next time.